and then drilling those deposits out and de-risking them through about a pre-feasibility stage. And then ideally be in a situation where we're delivering a project that's ready for development to the major miners when they're looking to acquire the deposits. So that's why we're really excited at this point in time, because there's a pretty clear shortage of copper deposits out there to develop, a necessity to produce more copper to meet a number of different types of demands for copper that are increasing notably. And we're sitting on a really good project with our Antacory project in northern Peru.
Welcome back inside our proactive newsroom. And joining me now is John Black. He is the CEO of Regulus Resources. And John, it's good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing well, Steve. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you today.
Yeah, I know you've had a lot of news over the last 6 months to a year. Lots of stuff to cover. First off, maybe just give me a bit of background on the company itself.
Yes, absolutely. We're a group of explorationists that got together about 20 years ago with our first company called Antares Minerals. Regulus is a spin out from that. And in all of our companies, what we specialize in doing is identifying projects that have potential to be very large copper or copper gold deposits, capturing those when there's a downturn in the market or a special circumstance, and then drilling those deposits out and de-risking them through about a pre-feasibility stage. And then ideally be in a situation where we're delivering a project that's ready for development to the major miners when they're looking to acquire the deposits. So that's why we're really excited at this point in time, because there's a pretty clear shortage of copper deposits out there to develop, a necessity to produce more copper to meet a number of different types of demands for copper that are increasing notably. And we're sitting on a really good project with our Antacory project in northern Peru.
Yeah, that recent collaboration agreement. Tell me a little bit about this one. And it sounds like you've had a lot of success in your career looking at projects just like this one.
We have. Our first company was called Antares. We made a nice discovery in southern Peru called Akira that we drilled out, and we sold the first quantum. So we have completed our strategy once. Myself and Kevin Heather, our chief geological officer, come from large company backgrounds. He was mostly Barrick. I was mostly Rio Tinto Kennecott. So we're experienced with what the major companies need. What we're doing is working in the junior space to deliver those projects going forward. What we have with Antacory and Regulus right now is it's a really exciting project, but it's slightly complex. Effectively, we have a portion of a very large copper gold deposit. The portion we have is now relatively well drilled out. We have about 250 million tons of indicated mineralization at just a little over 0.7 copper equivalent grade, with another 267 millions of inferred. So over 500 million tons of quite attractive grade and a very low strip ratio immediately adjacent to an operating mine. And that operating mine is mining the oxide cap for gold over the top of this same large deposit. They have the other portion deposit slightly more than we do. So if you combine the deposit together, the currently reported resource is over 13 billion pounds of copper and over 10.5 million ounces of gold. But that complex ownership. So one of the things that we've done recently is we've arrived at an agreement with the Coimolache Mining Corporation. It's the joint venture that operates the other portion of the district that we're in, to collaboratively produce an estimate of the entire district. We're doing this under confidentiality. It won't be released to the public unless both parties are in agreement to go forward. But it's an important first step that we're working together on this to be able, so that all parties involved in the district see the size of the full prize and really what's going forward. A lot of major companies are interested in us and pestering us, but we're a little bit handcuffed on how we can get the information out to the public. We'd love to show the full side of this, and even more importantly, the full economic importance of this project. So this first step of collaboration with the neighbors is a really key step for us to move forward.
Absolutely. Sounds like it as well. And obviously partnerships is something that you've worked on throughout your career and showing one here right now. And also you mentioned Rio Tinto and your connection to there, and that's a part of your story as well with Regulus.
It really is. We've had a long history. I've worked for Rio Tinto for a long time, so I know the guys there pretty well. But we've had a long industry with them monitoring what we're doing and moving forward. And they are one group that we can mention because of an official agreement we have with them. They're now an equity owner of 16% of Regulus Resources. It was an investment they made into us a little over a year ago. And it's both to have a toehold in to see what we're doing and watching it, but it's also to test some really promising new technology they have. They've recently formed a division called Rio Tinto Nuton, and what they believe they can do is they can leach primary copper sulfides. In the copper world, there are two fundamental ways you process copper. If it's secondary mineralization or weathered or near surface mineralization, you can heap leach it with sulfuric acid and produce copper cathode directly on site for relatively low cost. But the primary or unweathered copper sulfides have always required more capital intensive milling and concentration and sending a concentrate to a smelter. Rio Tinto believes they've cracked the nut to be able to leach those primary sulfides, and we're pretty excited to offer them the opportunity to test their technology on our project. If this works well, it would dramatically lower the capital costs, and it also provides a number of other benefits to us. We have a very large and very high grade, low strip, ideal geometry deposit that we share with the neighbors, but it is a style of mineralization called high sulfidation epithermal mineralization overlying a porphyry at depth. That means it has a lot of arsenic associated with it. We're very upfront about doing that. One of the interesting things about the Rio Tinto technology is it would sequester that arsenic into a stable non-soluble mineral called scorodite. And so it's a very environmentally friendly way to process these arsenic-rich ores. So we're very excited to see if this will work. It would lower our capital costs, eliminate the arsenic issue for us, and coincidentally use a lot less water and a lot less energy. So right now it's great that copper is viewed as a green metal. It's an important metal for us to move towards a lower carbon future, but mining copper is carbon intensive. So if we can apply techniques like this to the project, it would drop our energy costs notably. It'd make a greener, more environmentally friendly mine, which is easier to permit and more socially acceptable. So we're pretty excited to test this technology. It doesn't have to work for us to have a great project. There are conventional pathways forward on the project, but if it works, it could make a great project into a spectacular project.
Absolutely. John, that's a lot going on within the company right now. Are you still looking at other opportunities as well? Is that something that you and the team continue to look at on a daily basis?
When we're on to one of a big project like this, it keeps us pretty full. So we tend not to. But one thing that happens in the space we're in, when you've had a success like we did with our first company with Antares, we tend to get a little more visibility. We tend to see a few more opportunities come our way. And so while we were happily working away on Regulus and the Antiquary project, it came to our attention a project in Argentina called the Altar project. And a few years ago, we signed an agreement to earn in up to an 80% in Altar. We chose to spin that out into a second vehicle. So our same management team also manages Aldebaran Resources working on the Altar project in Argentina, which is a pretty exciting project as well. So between the two companies and the two very interesting projects we have right now, we have our hands full. So we're not intentionally looking, but these beasts are they're increasingly rare. It's more and more difficult to find these. And so if we did see an opportunity for something coming up, I'm sure we would take a look at how you might acquire it, but it's not our main focus right now by any means at all. In the
Makes a
M&A
lot of
space, we're looking really more to be acquired than to merge and acquire something. So.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, exciting times. I'm sure interested in seeing how that Newton project worked as well, and how that technology is done. So it's going to be fascinating to continue to watch your story, John. Thanks so much. I appreciate your time, and we'll talk again soon. Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks, Steve.
All right. There's John Black, the CEO of Regulus Resources.